Okay, in today's webinar, the first webinar will be focused on the legislation aspects, and we have six bullets, in fact, to this presentation. We will see regulations, the accreditation of Applus Laboratories, the applicability for the European 2022/13, the Red Delegated Act itself. We are talking about testing and assessment and evaluation and certification. And finally, I prepare some frequently answered questions just to give you briefly some maybe doubts that you as an audience have in mind. Let's talking about myself. As I said, my name is, I am Luis Boada, the Wireless and EMC Certification Technical Manager and A+. In addition to my role, I also hold the position of Deputy Chairperson of the Red Compliance Association, the Red CA. And I have more than 20 years experience in RF engineering, including nearly 40 years at A+. I currently oversee the management of our control body for product certification across various schemes that I will show you in the next slide. Here we have the wireless testing and certification capabilities in our headquarters right now. We are not only a notified body for the Radio Equipment Directive, that this is the topic for today, we are also the UK approved body for radio and EMC, telecommunication certification body, TCB for US, also for Canada, and we are recognized certified certification body, RCB, for MIC Japan. In addition, we have also, we offer the global market access for radio equipment, for all the countries worldwide, just to one-stop shop to offer to all our clients the best service as possible. And just one note for you, we issue more than 3,000 certifications, radio type approvals as a CB. This is the average per year. That's all for the capabilities. Okay, let's start with the regulation. Regulation, it's talking about the Radio Equipment Directive. Oh, sorry, something is wrong. Let me do, yeah, it's starting again. Apologize for that. Let's continue in the same point. Okay. As I said, we are talking about the regulation, that this is the Radio Equipment Directive. And the main objective of the Radio Equipment Directive is to establish a regulatory framework for the marketing and use of the radio equipment within the European Union. And its primary objectives are to ensure the protection of human health and safety, and as well to promote an effective and efficient use of the radio spectrum. Therefore, includes the test requirement and then considering within the RED, the EMC and low voltage directive aspects. In addition, I want to also put on the table two main concepts for when you put a radio equipment device in the European market. The first one is putting into service. That means activate the radio equipment for the first time by the final user, and placing in the market. That is marketing for the first time a radio equipment in the Union market. Here, just for your convenience, I put a link directly to the Radio Equipment Directive if you want to download or access for all the language available in the European Union. Following with the regulation, we have, okay, if you are, what are the devices that it's under the scope of this directive? We have several examples here. One is the mobile cellular, the short-range device, the WLAN, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. Nothing about the technologies, but we are talking about the kind of devices. Here you have some examples like radio, radar antennas, base stations, smartphones, whatever. All these kind of devices are within the scope of the Radio Equipment Directive, since these devices have radio embedded inside, okay? The next point in the regulation is the essential requirements. We have three essential requirements. We have the several aspects as essential requirements. The first ones are the Article 3.1a and 1b, that is health and safety and EMC, electromagnetic compatibility. Following that, we have the radio aspects, that it's under the 3.2 and 3.3. And last but not least, the common charger, the new aspect that it's included in the Radio Equipment Directive and will be applicable for the 1st of January 2025, for just to have a common charger for all kinds of devices that will be placed into the market for, as I said, the 1st of January 2025. This flow chart, it's gives a clear detail about what will be the process that a manufacturer or applicant that wants to place their product in the European market. For example, we have the first two aspects, 3.1a and 3.1b, to be self-assessment by the manufacturer. They don't need to go through a notified body, because these two aspects are possible to put directly through Module A, that is a self-assessment. Obviously, the notified body involvement, it's always voluntary for these aspects, and then you can go to the third-party notified body if you want to have some kind of third-party validation. For the radio aspects, 3.2 and 3.3, you can also go through Module A and self-assessment only if you apply a harmonized standard in full. If you don't apply the harmonized standard that is published in the official journal of the European Union, then you don't have the presumption of conformity. And also, if this standard doesn't exist, or you don't apply in a full, maybe partially, then the only path that you have to place the device in the European market is going through a notified body. And this is clear here, the path that you need to pass. Okay. And last, the common charger. It's not necessary to go through a notified body, since the two standards that are included to comply with the common charger are included in the directive directly. Okay, but once again, as a voluntary basis, you can always go to a third-party validation. As I said, we are notified body for several legislations, but right now and today, the topic is the Radio Equipment Directive, and we are recognized for the Article 3.1a, b, 3.2, 3.3d, e, and f, that is the cybersecurity aspects, Article 3.3g, that is the emergency systems for the cellular, and Article 3.4, we are in process to obtain this recognition. Regarding the applicability of the Red Delegated Act, we have three different aspects. The Red Article 3.3d that applies to a radio equipment that can communicate itself over the internet, whether it communicates directly or via any other equipment. And the European Commission defines that this is as an internet-connected radio equipment. Then we have the Article 3.3e that applies to the following equipment that is capable of processing personal data, traffic data, or location data, or if it's intended exclusively for childcare, radio equipment falling under the Toy Directive, and devices that are body-worn radio equipment. And finally, we have the Red Article 3.3f that applies to internet-connected radio equipment if that equipment enables the holder or user to transfer money monetary value or virtual currency. Just to put emphasis on the second article, the 3.3e, that toys or childcare wearable devices which are processing personal data, traffic data, and location data, even if not connected to the internet, also applies this aspect, this article 3.3e. That's the reason I put here this, let's say, picture, okay? Without connection, it's also applicable. Here we have on the right, we have some examples, like, for example, for childcare radio equipment, we have baby monitors or children's GPS trackers. And wearables, we have smartwatches, smart glasses. And for the internet connected radio equipment, we have smartphones, tablets, smart TVs, household appliance, for example. Okay, following the applicability, maybe we have some question in mind that there are any exceptions on this Red Delegated Act, and the answer is yes, we have it. We have all the devices that are under the medical devices regulation are out of the scope or are fully exempt for the Radio Equipment Directive Red Delegated Act. And there are three more regulations, like the civil aviation, the type approval of vehicles, and electronic toll collection systems, that the Article 3.3e and f are exempt. However, Article 3.3d still applies. And what reason why the 3.3e and f are exempt is because the cybersecurity of these categories of products is guaranteed by existing pieces of dedicated legislation. For example, for regulation of type approval of vehicles, we have the specific cybersecurity UN 155 that it's covering these cyber aspects. But for the network, the Article 3.3d is still applicable. I'm pretty sure that you are aware about that, but when will be applicable? This regulation shall apply from 1st of August 2025. And we have 7.5 months in front of us to comply with this new regulation. And what will happen with the old devices? The Delegated Act will apply to all devices placed into them on the market once it becomes applicable. That means 1st of August 2025. And all devices which have already been placed on the market can continue to be used without the need for specific adaptations until the end of their life cycle. However, and this is an important remark, new batch of production of the devices that are already placed into the market need to be compliant with the new requirement. Okay, this is important to have in mind. Okay, the Red Delegated Act defines, as I said, internet-connected radio equipment as equipment capable of communicating over the internet by itself, either directly or via any other equipment. Here we have an example, a picture that, first of all, we have the equipment. If this equipment is a radio equipment that is indicated with this signal, and if this equipment is also connected radio equipment to the internet, these two symbols, then this device, this equipment applies or could apply, depends of intended use, the Article 3.3d, e, and f. However, Article 3.3e is also applicable for childcare, toy directive, and wearables with or without connection to the internet. This is just to emphasize what we are talking about in the previous slide. Let me to remark some points that the European Commission clarified very well in the last Red CA meeting. The internet-connected equipment is a technology and protocol neutral. This means that it's not necessary to have internet protocols like TCP/IP, UDP, HTTP to consider that the radio equipment is internet-connected radio equipment. This is important in order to, based on the intended use of your device, you need to know if it's applicable or not. Okay, let's continue. with applicability. We have here some example about product A that is not internet ready. However, we have a product B that is internet ready. If you have a combined product, for example, a combustion engine with a telematic device incorporated remote controllable machinery, this product fits and is under the red delegated act. Okay, here we have some explanation about the product A and product B, but the important thing here is if you have a product C that is a combined equipment that the product B has internet ready, then it's under the red delegated act as an internet connected radio equipment. Okay. Once again, you need to, as a manufacturer, you need to consider what is the intended use of the device in order to understand which radio aspect is applicable for your device. Okay, let's move to the test and assessment. This bullet, I try to. Okay, it's true that I don't want to emphasize more on this in the following slides because, as I said at the beginning, Nuria Carrillo, my colleague, will be more deeply explain this standards, this family of standards, the 18031 series. But just to refresh you, these standards has been developed by Senelec, and we have /1, 2, and 3 that is directly linked to the 33D, E, and F. And here you have a table about what are the, let's say, the matrix about which one address security assets and risk. Network assets, it's directly for 33D. Privacy assets and risk, it's by 33E, and financial assets and risk, it's covered by 33F. And for security assets and risk, all aspects are taken into consideration this part of the standard. This series of standards have main requirements like the access control mechanism, the authentication mechanism, the secure update mechanism. Okay, we have several mechanisms here, and also cryptography, and network monitoring mechanism. This is a summary of all the requirements that is covered by every single standard. It's -1, -2, and -3. And please note that the details of the requirements and the assessment criteria and the sub-requirements differ between the three harmonized, possible or future harmonized standards. Because even that the requirements are the same, the topic that is covered by every single standard will be different or will be ad hoc to the aspect 33D, E, and F. Okay, the assessments, let me to go really fast on that, but the assessment could be, they are three different types. The conceptual assessment that examine if the provided documentation and rationale provide required evidence. Functional completeness assessment that examine the test if the provided documentation is complete. And finally, we have the functional sufficiency assessment that examine and test if the implementation is adequate. Once again, this will be more explained by Nuria later on in the next presentation. Okay, I don't want to give you more details because it's unuseful right now. The timeline for the 18031 series. This is important in order to understand what is the background and what we are now. Okay, it's true that the Senelec, we start with the standardization request several years ago. Okay, I'm sorry, several years ago. But this is a picture about the last year or this current year and then in the upcoming 2025. In May 2024 was the formal vote for the 18031 series, and after August has been published because we have a positive result for this formal vote standards. Okay, and for some administrative issues, the official standards has been provided to the Commission on the 2nd of October. And then we have in front of us more or less 7 months left till the date of applicability. And okay, what will happen right now during this month? Because as most of us, we expected that we have these 3 standards developed by CENELEC under the standardization request to be harmonized in order to confer precision of conformity with the cybersecurity in the Red Delegated Act. Okay, this is not, it's, now we are waiting for the decision of the European Commission. And regarding the Commission, could be 3 different options. It in full in the official journal, cite with restrictions, or not cite at all. And in case that the publication in the official journal of the European Union includes some restrictions, the European Commission will provide a guidance on how to interpret and implement these restrictions. This is an important message from the Commission because this will be helpful not only for the manufacturers, also for the notified bodies, in order to understand which restrictions are and what does mean exactly this restriction. The different or the new approach that the CENELEC offers to these standards that maybe we are not, at least for the radio equipment directive, we are not familiar at all, are the decision trees for every mechanism. Then we have this kind of approach that Nuria will explain you in detail in her presentation in a few minutes. Continuing with the series of 18031, we have an asset sorting logic. We have the security assets, that is data and information, configurations and functions. And for the security assets, we have the security functions, security parameters, confidentiality encryption keys, and security configuration. Then we have the network assets that each cover network function and services, sensitive network function configurations, and confidential network function configurations like VPN passwords, Wi-Fi passwords, or encrypted communication settings. Maybe I repeat myself several times, but Nuria will show you this in very, very good detail. And we have the privacy assets, that is sensitive privacy asset, confidential, and related to children's privacy devices. And finally, we have the financial assets, that is confidential and sensitive financial assets. If we are moving to the eval and certification, here in this flowchart, I will try to explain what is the, let's say, the path when the client requests a Module B assessment under the Delegated Act or under the Red Directive. First of all, we need to understand what is the state of the art to check the test reports. In fact, the client lodged an application with a notified body that including test reports, pictures, declaration of conformity, user's manual, risk assessment, design documentation, etc. This block is related or directly related to the technical documentation file. That the manufacturer is full responsible of that, and they need to provide to the notified body to perform a documentary review. Remember, we are talking about documentary review. Notified bodies is under ISO 17065, and we are not testing at all. Then we check evidences in order to confirm or to check if they are compliant with the current legislation. Then, after the evaluation, the notified body issue a report that could be a positive report, and means that the notified body will issue a EU-type examination certificate. Could be a positive but with restrictions, then will issue a certificate that the restrictions is very well explained in the certificate. And could be negative. That is, in this case, the notified body refused the certificate. However, if we are in this part or in this section, this is not directly negative and that's all. If the notified body detect that something is not compliant with the legislation or some documents that it's from the technical documents, the technical documents are wrong, then we ask to the client to do some modifications or to provide the new evidences, and then we going once again to this flowchart, and then usually after modifications of the client, we will provide a positive notified body examination certificate. But this is not only that we are doing as a notified body. Notified body have some kind of follow-up, and the follow-up is not only for the notified body, it's also related to the manufacturer, because if there are some changes in the state of the art, the notified body needs to inform the client about these changes and what is the impact of the compliance in the already issued EU-type certificate. And also, if the design change product or changing the product, the client needs to evaluate these changes, and if these changes affecting directly to the essential requirements, then they need to notify inform the notified body, and then the notified body will evaluate or will reassess the product once again. And it's the same like the previous one. Could be positive, could be restriction, or could be suspended or withdraw if the device or the manufacturer doesn't want to continue with these changes as a change of the state of the art, or maybe the design is changed and the manufacturer decides not to follow with the reassessment because maybe it's obsolete or it's outdated, whatever. But it's important to have here a clear picture about what is the process. Okay, we are running out of time, in my time, sorry, and just to put here some obligations to the manufacturers, that is everything is stated in the radio equipment directive, the CE marking, the declaration of conformity, and you need to retain during 10 years all the technical documents. You can put the device into the market directly by you or an importer, distributor, or authorized representative. All of these roles must to comply with the obligations of manufacturers. Okay. Here we have the CE mark, and this is the logo for the restrictions if your device have some kind of restrictions. Regarding the red delegated act certification strategy, we have the certification strategy for combined products. Just clear that devices that can be tested independently are certified separately, and devices cannot be tested independently. Then we need to check case by case. If the product itself have some wireless modules, if these modules are already certified by a third party, could be a possibility to speed up the process of the full certification, okay? Because then you don't need to do all the testing, maybe some gap testing in the standards. The applicability of the standard for the Red Delegated Act, remember, we are talking about the red as a reference, the series of 18031, but they are another kind of standards that can cover the state of the art of the cybersecurity, like the 303645 format C and the EN 62443-2-4-2, sorry, for industrial IoT devices. But in case that you are using this kind of standards, as a notified body point of view, our criteria, or I assume that the criteria for the most of the notified bodies will be that if you are going to the 18031 series, you will see that there are some mapping across these two standards, and that means that the notified body will request extra information or evidence in order to comply with the cybersecurity red delegated act. This is an example of the mapping that is included in the Annex A of the standards. This is something that Nuria will explain you also in more detail. And that's all from my side. This is the frequently answered questions that I prepared, just 5 or 4, I don't know, I don't remember. But the first one is it mandatory for the manufacturer to certify their product under Cyber Article 3.3 D, E, and F? And the answer is yes, but not before 1st of August 2025. Is it mandatory to go through a notified body, or DOC declaration of conformity will be enough? Okay, notified body will be mandatory in case that non-harmonized standard has been published or if the manufacturer doesn't fully apply those harmonized standards. If harmonized standards are available, then DOC or notified body as a voluntary basis will be also okay. Which products are under this scope of cyber? First of all, the new Delegated Act 2022/30, cyber only applies to radio products. If so, then the manufacturer must evaluate the intended use of the device against these articles. You are the most able part that you knows very well your product, and then you need to identify based on the intended use, if your device is fit or not with the Radio Equipment Directive Delegated. And the last one is, are there any impacts on existing or legacy devices? As I said at the beginning, all devices which have already been placed in the European market can continue to be used without need for specific adaptations until the end of their life cycle. That's all from my side. Thank you very much for attending this webinar.